Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to this afternoon's webinar on the IR Secure Mailbox in Sage 50 Payroll. My name's Duncan, I'll be your host for this session, and I am joined by my colleague Calvin, who's standing by in the background, poised and ready to answer any of your questions. Let's now take a look at what we're going to cover today. So we're going to start by looking at how to set up the integrated IR Secure Mailbox within Sage 50 Payroll. Then going to demonstrate how to check for notifications and to automatically apply any changes. We're then going to look at the other feature of the Secure Mailbox, which is the ability to submit the P46 CAR form. And we're going to finish with 4 top tips to help you get the most out of using this really handy feature. And questions are welcome throughout, but we will stick around at the end of the webinar just to give you that time to submit any final questions and make sure we have provided as many answers as possible. So we'll start with setting up the Secure Mailbox. And first thing I want to do is run through what you'll need in order to do this. So 2 things need to happen. You'll need your user ID and password that are used for HMRC's PAYE online service. The good news is this should already be stored within your program, as it's also used to do your RTI submissions. And secondly, if you currently receive paper notifications from HMRC, so if you still get your tax code notices in the post, you will need to enable electronic notifications. So there's some steps on the slide explaining how to do this. Essentially, you need a login to your HMRC online services portal. And once you're in there, you'll need to set your notice preferences to receive notices online. So you can read more about setting up the Secure Mailbox. But before we go into the demo, I do have a quick polling question for you. So if you take a look at your screen, let's just have a look now at how you currently receive tax code notices from HMRC. So I've put 5 options for this poll, and we'll give you about a minute to fill this in and to cast your vote. But if you'd like to tell me how you currently receive tax code notices and choose between the Secure Mailbox in Sage 50 Payroll, do you retrieve them via HMRC's PAYE online service in a browser? Have you downloaded HMRC's PAYE desktop viewer to view the notifications? Do you get paper notices in the post? Or if you're not sure, you can always respond don't know /other. And I will share the overall percentages of the votes so you can get to know a bit more about the audience here today. We've had about 65% of the votes in so far. We've got 2 options that are pretty close right now. And I'll give you a few more seconds just to cast those final votes. And then we'll close that down and I will share the results. So our top 3 today, in first place, 38% of you are currently using the Secure Mailbox in Sage 50 Payroll. So hopefully today will give you more insight in exactly what you're doing and what else can be done with the mailbox. 24% of you receiving your notifications via a browser. So by switching this to the Secure Mailbox, you'll find that you'll reduce errors as you'll be applying changes directly, makes it a more streamlined process. 1% of you PAYE desktop viewer, and I've got 35% paper notices in the post. So if you are getting them in the post, remember you will need to enable electronic notifications, and you do this by signing in to your online services portal from your web browser. So great, thanks for sharing that insight. And we will now move on and we'll take a look at where you set this all up. So the good news is, for most of you here, it will already be set up in your program because the user ID and password will be entered in your e-submission settings. There are a few options that I'll go through in the demo, and you can also check that your contact details are up to date, but this can all be found from the e-submissions module by going into e-submission settings. So we'll show you this in the demo. So first of all, navigate to e-submissions, bottom left-hand corner. First task you'll see is your e-submission settings. On the settings tab, you'll have the company name and PAYE reference. You'll also have your user ID and password for your PAYE online services account. And a few options, just to point these out, is a tick box, which will automatically check for new messages as soon as you open the IR Secure mailbox. So you can tick that box if you don't want to manually check by clicking a new mailbox. And you've got this one on the right-hand side, which we'll come on to a bit later on in the demo, clearing the P46 car flag on submission. So if you do use the secure mailbox to submit P46 cars, it will clear the box that says that is required in the employee record as soon as the submission has been sent. That's all that does. Now, the other tab here is your contact details. Always worth checking these are up to date, especially the email address, as this will be used to send you confirmation of submissions. So do check you've got those entered as well. And then it's up to you to decide whether you want to check automatically or manually. I'm going to go for the manual option. I'll just go ahead and save the e-submission settings. So that's all there is to setting it up. Some of you will need to change your notification settings with HMRC if you're still getting those paper notices and you want to receive them online. But for those of you that already receive them online, just a quick check of these settings to make sure everything's up to date and you've selected your preferences regarding checking for new messages. So let's move on now and take a look at how you would check for notifications and apply those changes. And we'll start with a list of the forms you can receive in the secure mailbox. So the P6 form is the notice to an employer to change an employee's tax code and often includes previous pay and tax for the current tax year. So you're likely to receive these notices if you've recently taken on a new starter, for example, and they didn't have a P45. You just filled in a starter checklist. The P9 notice is also a change in a tax code, but this is a change that applies from the start of the new tax year. So these are always sent between January and March and take effect from the 6th of April. The next ones are student or postgraduate loan start and stop notices. So that's your SL1, PGL1, a notice to start student loan or postgraduate loan deductions, and the SL2, PGL2 notices are to stop them. And then you've got a couple of responses you may receive in reply to national insurance queries. So if you send an NVR, an NI number verification request, you may receive a reply to that to confirm that you are using the correct NI number for an employee. Or if you have an employee with an incorrect or a missing national insurance number, you may receive a notification advising you which one to use. So these are the main forms. You can also receive generic notifications, things like late payment notices, that sort of thing, in the same way. So let's take a look at how to retrieve these in the program. And for this demo, because I wanted to show you a few of the different types of notices, we are starting at the beginning of this tax year. So imagine I've just moved into the new tax year and I may have some tax code notices that I need to apply. And what you would do at the start of each pay run is you would check your secure mailbox. So two places you can do this from. If you use the process map, you can open the secure mailbox directly from this link, just before you enter the payments. If you don't, go to your e-submissions tasks and you'll find IR secure mailbox from here. So that will then load up, and if you ticked the box to automatically check for any new notices, it will go ahead and it'll connect to your mailbox online and it will download any of the latest notices. Or in my case, because I didn't tick that box, what I do need to do is to click New Mail. Now you'll see a progress bar move across as it connects, but in this particular demo, because I'm in a training simulation, it has downloaded the notices into my mailbox, and you can see it's been organized here into the corresponding folder for the type of notice. So I've had 3 of these notices through so far. 2 of them are P9 notices. So they arrived at the end of February, and it's a coding notice effective from the start of the tax year, from the 6th of April. So for this particular employee, it's given me the new tax code to use. If I select the other notice, I can either double click or I can click open. Shows me the same details there for that employee. Now, because they do have effective from dates, it means that when you receive these notices, especially if it's for the new tax year, you can go ahead and apply them straight away. And that new tax code won't kick in until the effective from date. And you'll see what I mean once I show you the notices applied. So you could open them individually, as I've just done, or you can open multiple notices. So one way to do that is to clear the current selection by clicking this button and then swap the selection. Then go ahead and click open. You can see both of the notice details are shown here. You can print a copy if you want to keep them, and then click apply. And as long as the NI number exists in your payroll, it'll go ahead and apply those changes. So I'm going to click yes to continue. And you can see that in this case, both of them have been applied successfully. So status reads success. And I can then close out of this screen. Now, what you may have noticed is at this point is that both of these tax notices are still shown in the P9 folder. And that's because the secure mailbox hasn't been refreshed. So if I close and go back into it, you'll see that the P9 notices have now gone. So it automatically refreshes whenever it's reopened. And we'll just have a look at this student loan notice. So this was for employee 10. Again, we can see the details on screen. We've got the start date and also the plan type. And then these changes can also be directly applied to the employee. So we'll go ahead, do that. We'll click onto yes. You can see that that one also shows status success. So if I just close out of that for now, what I'm then going to do is I'll show you the changes to the employee records. There's employees 2, 6, and 10 for this pay run. And for employee 2, we can see that the tax code has been updated. It's now 1257L. And if you click on this plus sign, you can see what it was previously. So it was slightly different since the 1st of January 2022. The change has been applied for employee 6, effective from the 6th of April. And for employee 10, if we take a look at the student or postgraduate loan details, these have been filled in with start date and the student loan plan type. So all them changes are made directly when you apply the notice. And if you want to look back at any mail you've applied, just jump into the e-submissions log here at the bottom, and you'll see there is an applied mail tab. So from here, you can go in and you can view the details of things that you have already applied. So what I'm going to do, just to show you some of the other notice types, is I'm just going to complete payroll for month 1. And I will just go ahead and update the records for all of my active employees. And then if I set my process date to month 2, as if I'm doing my next pay run, from the payroll process map, I'm going to jump into the secure mailbox. And if I check for new mail again, you can see that this month I've had some further notices in. So I've got a P6 tax code notice. So this is a mid-year tax code change. And I also have an SL2, which is that student loan stop notice for one of my employees. So just like before, we can view the details on screen. And this one also has previous pay and tax for the current tax year. So this is the new tax code and the effective from date. So let's go ahead and apply that one. As you can see, that has now applied to one of my new employees. And for the SL2, we can go in, shows us a stop date, relevant employee name, and we will go ahead and apply that too. So it hasn't refreshed, it still shows these notices. Obviously, as I close and go back in, they will have disappeared. And just to show you the employees in question, So for the student loan stop notice, it's simply entered the end date for us. And then for our new employee, they were on emergency tax code. They've now been put onto their correct tax code. That's now in use. And within the year-to-date values, it's also entered the values from their previous employment. So that's your secure mailbox, really simple to use. Should be already set up for most of you here. If you do have paper notifications currently, remember, log on to HMRC's portal and get that setting updated. And just to recap the process, we went into the mailbox either via the process map or the e-submissions menu. Click new mail if you haven't configured to automatically check. Everything's then organized into folders, and you can then select the notice or notices. You can click to open them. It'll display the information on screen, and then it's the apply button at the bottom that goes ahead and applies those changes. But that's not all. The IR Secure Mailbox does have one other function, and this is the ability to submit a P46 car for employees that you've provided with a company car available for private use, which you are recording on a P11D. So if you don't already know, you can create car records in Sage 50 Payroll. This can be used to work out the Class 1A national insurance contributions due. But it can also be used to generate a submission to inform HMRC at the point of which you've provided a company car, withdrawn a company car, or you've changed the car that an existing employee has. So let's take a closer look at this in the program, and we'll start by creating a car record. So for one of my employees, we've just provided them with their first company car. So I'm going to click to the Cars and Fuel tab within their employee record. And all I then need to do is to click New Car and then fill in the details of the company car. So I will start with the car reg, the make and model, the date that was first registered, fuel type, engine size, and the CO2 emissions. We can then fill in list price, any of the other values if applicable, and then the date that this car was first made available. So we have enough details here to create the new car. So I'm going to click on to finish. You can see it's recorded that in the program. And if I then click on the P46 car option here at the bottom, it's prepared a P46 car form. It's selected the reason for a P46 car. So we've provided this employee with a car available for private use, and it has selected this box at the top to indicate a P46 car is required. So to submit that information online, what we can now do is go back to e-submissions and into the secure mailbox. And you might notice next to HMRC submissions, we now have a little triangle symbol where we've got the P46 car folder underneath. You see the details of the car identified by its registration number, and then we can go ahead and submit that to HMRC. So there's a quarterly submission deadline for submitting these. It's only required if the car is to be included on a P11D. If you've registered to Payroll company car benefits, car details are sent in your FPS instead. But once that's gone through, we'll get confirmation it's been successful. It's actually now found within the submitted items in the mailbox. So handy way of submitting a P46 car if that's something you would ever need to do. So recap on that process. First of all, you do need to create the car record by adding a new car from the Cars and Fuel tab. If you click P46 car, you can then fill in the details for the P46 car form. Make sure the box is ticked. The P46 car is required. And then jump into your mailbox, HMRC submissions folder. And from there, you can select the car and you can send it directly to them. So that is the secure mailbox all in, but we're going to finish with my 4 top tips to help you with a few efficiencies in using the secure mailbox. So starting with tip number 1, it is possible to select multiple notices at the same time and apply them to multiple employees. So I showed you one of the ways in the demo. There are some clear and swap buttons if you're looking to highlight everything within a particular folder, or if there's part of a list that you want to highlight, you can hold down the Shift key and click on the first and last notice in a list to select everything between them. Or if it's a number of individual notices you want to open at the same time, hold Control and then click on those individual notices. So it's very much like selecting files in Windows Explorer. Control key to select them one at a time. Shift key, click on the first and last to select everything in a list. If they're current notices, you can open them. You can then apply them as a batch, as I did in the demo, all at once. Now, tip 2 is that the same principle applies for deleting notifications. So you might have been receiving your notices online for a while, but you've been doing it via your browser. And when you come to use the secure mailbox in Sage for the first time, there's a good chance it's going to download some of those old notices that you have already actioned. So to get rid of them, you can make a selection, as explained above. So it could be everything in the folder with clear and swap. More likely, you probably hold down Shift and select the first and last notice in a list that you want to delete. And once they are selected, instead of opening them and applying them, simply click the delete option. Tip number 3, what do you do if your notice still shows in the mailbox after you've applied it or after you've deleted it? Well, it's a really simple fix. It's a refresh issue. So all you need to do is to close and reopen the secure mailbox. So if you've been through, you're starting to use it the first time, maybe you've deleted some old ones, but they're still there after you click delete. Close the mailbox, go back in, they will be removed. And finally, we saw this earlier. So if you want a reminder of notices that you have applied and you want to see what information was in that notice, so obviously it's gone from the mailbox now, simply check the Applied Mail tab within the eSubmissions log, and you'll see all of the notices that you have applied this way. And to see the finer detail, so tax codes, effective from dates, etc., just click the details option to show the information within that notice. So that's 4 top tips from me, but if you have further questions on this, do get them into the questions panel and we'll get some answers out to you in the next 5 minutes. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. What I will do though is run through some further support, just so you know where you can help yourselves. So first port of call, if you have a payroll question, would be our online help center. Now you can access this in your program by clicking any of the help options or by pressing the F1 key on your keyboard, function key at the top. Or if you're in a browser or on your mobile, just go to sage.co.uk/help and follow the links for Sage 50 Payroll. Now from here, you can search our knowledge base to find useful articles. You can read support guides on a number of different topics. On our homepage, you'll find a webinars option. Here you can see what other live webinars are coming up and also catch up with recordings of recent sessions. Plenty of videos available in the Help Centre, and you can get in touch with our support team on any of the topics by following the Get in Touch options. So great resource, sage.co.uk/help. In addition to that, as a Sage member, you get free access to Sage University. You can sign up for this at sageu.com. From here, once you've created your profile, you get access to our free e-learning courses, do online certification, and there is a range of bite-sized learning courses that you can dip in and out of. That's not just Sage 50 Payroll, also available for Sage 50 accounts and many of our other lines of software. So do check it out, sageu.com. Create your profile if you haven't already done so, and away you go. And with that, we're on to final questions. So we're going to continue answering these in the Q&A section. So do get them submitted if you don't already have an answer. Don't forget you can download our handouts from that documents icon. So it's getting to your last chance to do that now. If you're looking to save any of the Q&A, please note that it isn't possible to download that. But what you can do is you can select any questions and answers that you want to keep and paste them into another document, such as a Word document. So that's what I'd recommend doing if you want to keep hold of any Q&A. So I'm just going to check on the questions, give Calvin a hand with the last few that are coming through. So I'm going to go on to mute for now, and I'll be back in a few minutes to wrap things up. So I'll speak to you in a moment. Okay, and thanks everyone for sending those questions in and for sticking with us to the end of this short webinar. As we are nearly out of time, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for your time this afternoon. I hope you found this session useful. And if you'd like to let us know what you thought, please take a moment to complete the short exit survey as you leave our webinar today. And also look out for a follow-up email that I'll be sending you later this afternoon, which contains a link to the recording of this session and also a link to our webinar hub, where you can sign up for future live sessions. So as we are now out of time, on behalf of myself and Calvin, just like to thank you all once again for joining us, and we do very much look forward to seeing you on one of our other webinars in the near future. Goodbye for now.